The ECW mass transit incident is one of the most infamous matches in the history of professional wrestling. One of the most infamous matches in the history of ECW. And that's really saying something. For those of you not familiar with this incident, it is the incident where New Jack attacked a guy who said he was a wrestler, said he was experienced, but was just a newbie, and got his ass handed to him in the match and cut open by New Jack. Viciously cut open, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But one of the things that people don't really remember about this incident is that Devon Dudley was in this match. That's right. Devon was actually teaming with Mass Transit. He was supposed to be teaming with one of the Rottens, Axel Rotten, perhaps, I think, but ended up having to be stuck with a fill-in. Some guy that just came out of the crowd, said, "Oh yeah, I'm a wrestler. I can wrestle. I'm trained." So they go, "Okay, kid, you're hired." Paul Heyman, right? And then what would happen after that would go down in pro wrestling infamy. And for more on that, we actually have Devon Dudley, who made an appearance on Maven Huffman's YouTube channel this week. Devon and Maven are close friends, and Devon, to my knowledge, this is the first time, or at least the most recent time in a number of years, where he actually spoke about the mass transit incident. And they sat down, they watched the video, and Devon gave his perspective from inside the match as they watched it. Check out this clip.
What made you want to sign up for this style wrestling?
I never wanted to be in ECW.
Okay.
I was scared to death of it. I came into Johnny Rod's school one day because Johnny Rod was my trainer. He was the one that trained me down at Gleason's gym in Brooklyn. He said, "What do you think about ECW?" I had a 5-minute conversation all within 2 seconds in my head, and I went, "Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it."
Now, Devon, everybody knows New Jack's reputation. Mm-hmm. What was he like at this time? Did he have that reputation in 1996?
Yes. New Jack was two different people. New Jack was the character that we all saw.
Right.
And loved in ECW with the gangsters. But then he was Jerome Young, which was his real name.
Right.
And Jerome Young, calm, cool, collective. Mm-hmm. New Jack would kill you in 30 seconds flat. Wouldn't even think twice about it. And here's what happened.
Okay. All right, explain to me what we're watching.
Well, he's got it's almost like a knife tied to a piece of wood.
Okay.
That he probably duct taped on there. And now he's actually taking it.
So this is a homemade weapon from Jack.
A homemade weapon. It's like he's taking it and digging it in and then starting to go all across his forehead.
And what people don't realize is this is a real item. This isn't gimmicked.
No.
Did Mass Transit know this was coming? Was this improvised? Was this, again, just Jack being Jack?
I think this was Jack being Jack. I think Mustafa, I don't even think knew what was going to happen. That was his tag team partner. I surely didn't know what was happening.
I'll give it to Mass Transit. He's still selling. In his mind, he's still in a wrestling match.
He's in a wrestling match.
Yeah. And I love it how they're giving you just enough to stay down and sell on the outside.
And I remember at that point, that's when I was like, something's not right.
Hold up, was that his hair or was he bleeding?
That was bleeding. It was like he hit a vein.
Oh, so he's like that, he's gushing blood.
And New Jack doesn't care. His father is screaming at this point.
At this point.
He's only 17. And New Jack was getting in an argument with the father. And basically telling him, "I hope he dies." I don't even think New Jack knew.
Nah.
Because I think if he knew, I don't think he would be incriminating himself in terms of "I hope he dies."
With the crowd and everything.
With the crowd and everything.
He's still playing his
But then
his
again,
gimmick.
New Jack was New Jack, so he didn't care.
Yeah. Jack's cutting this promo. Mustafa's patrolling the ring. Mass Transit's bleeding uncontrollably. Where's Devon at during this time?
Devon's on the floor hiding, trying to get underneath the fucking ring. Because at that point, I had never seen anything like that before. And you know, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in the projects.
You've seen stuff.
I've seen stuff, but this was like right there, and I was a part of it, which really scared me to death as a 23-year-old kid.
Absolutely.
So I had no idea what was happening. I mean, again, these were grown men.
Right.
This match has always struck a raw nerve with me. It just scares the shit out of me, quite frankly. New Jack scares the shit out of me, quite frankly. It's good to hear Devon say the same thing. He's like, yo, I was 23 and new to the business, and I had never seen anything like that, and I didn't know what to do, so I just tried to hide under the ring. And it's like, you don't really think about that kind of shit. You just go, Devon Dudley, tough guy, Dudley boys, put him through the table, ECW original. Of course, he's used to this kind of shit. But you don't really think, oh yeah, once upon a time, Devon Dudley was a young kid, 23, as young as shit, and green to the business with almost no experience, scared to be in ECW to begin with because of this kind of shit. And he sits there and he's got to sit and watch this. And you heard him say too, these are grown men. So I don't know what the age difference was between New Jack and Mustafa and Devon at the time. But clearly Devon did not feel that it was either his place or that he was capable of. He didn't have the confidence in himself to step in and do anything about this. You know, he got to a point, and it's funny because you see, and I tried to include a little bit of that in the clip there, that the Mustafa and New Jack kind of protected Devon in this. They were kind of like, you just stay the fuck outside the ring, stay down, feet up every once in a while, we'll knock your ass right back down. You stay down, we're going to murder this fat fuck in the ring. And that's exactly what they did, and that's why this scares the shit out of me. New Jack had done this also other times. In ECW, he tried to kill the other Grimes guy. What is it, Vic Grimes? Just threw him off the top of the thing, threw down to the, wanted to kill him, he said. And then later on, the old guy, he fucking shanked an old guy too, or clawed him. He had the Wolverine claws. New Jack just scares the fuck out of me. This is a guy that, Devon said it, he'll just kill you and not think twice about it. And I've watched enough YouTube videos and trust me, I've went down enough rabbit holes to know there are people out there that will just kill you and not even their heart rate won't even go up while they do it. It's wild. And New Jack always appeared to be one of those people. Now, I've talked to people, I know people in the business that have worked with New Jack, and they've said he's a fucking delight to work with. He's cool as shit, easy to work with, piece of cake. But obviously on his good side, right? Because heaven forbid you end up on his bad side. And what did this fat fuck do so egregiously to get on New Jack's bad side? He dared to go in the locker room as a greenhorn and say, here's what I think we should do in this match. Which everybody listening is saying right now, like, yeah, you don't do that. You know, hey, Jack, sir, nice to meet you. I'm here to do anything, maybe don't say I'm here to do anything you'd like, but what would you like to do? Might be a better approach. But he rubbed him the wrong way in the locker room, and Jack was going to make an example out of him. And he damn near murdered that kid in the ring. He had a vein that was squirting. You know, once you hit a fucking nick and artery, and you can literally see it on camera just... I'm like... That's a lot of blood loss, bro. And he just kept going. He smashed him in the face with a chair off the top rope. He rubbed it in a little bit, too. He really made sure that landed home. He mocked his father, who was begging and pleading from the crowd. Please, he's only 17. That's my son. New Jack's fucking jerking off in his face and was like, I hope he dies. It's funny because it's funny. It is funny. It is funny, but it's also scary as hell because we don't know where New Jack, the character, ends and Jerome Young, the person, begins. You know, he was dangerous and psychotic and didn't give a shit. That's the biggest problem. He don't give a shit. And that actually went to court, and I guess no charges were filed. I don't know if they were able to just say, hey, this was a wrestling show. He asked me to give him color, which he did. So I gave him color. It's not my fault that he's not used to the business or doesn't understand what it is we do here. Of course, they could have called some expert witnesses on how to get color, and they could have went into that whole thing. I mean, what you don't do, you don't stick a fucking shank into someone's forehead and just saw it all the way across like a fucking Frankenstein stitch. That poor kid, that goddamn poor kid. Some people will say he deserved it. He didn't belong in that ring. He was trying to, how dare he give an idea for the match? Just the wrong person on the wrong day. It's fun to hear Devon's perspective. Again, I don't know. I don't even remember if Devon was on the ECW documentary talking about this part specifically. I would assume he was, right? Speaking of, there's sirens going by in the background. I assume he was, because he was, signed to WWE at the time, but I don't remember what he would have said on the DVD. But to my knowledge, or at least in recent memory, this is the first time he's talked about it. It's really fascinating. And not just like I said, fascinating to hear that he was a scared kid. Like, most people won't even admit that. And I would have been too. And I don't know how this mass transit fuck. And, they said he was green and everything. I was watching him out there. Like, he's working the crowd and shit. He's selling even after he's bleeding. Like, motherfucker, looks like he's trained a little bit anyway. I'm not saying he's Luthez or anything, but he didn't look like he was a fucking fan who didn't know what was going on. He was clearly working to some extent. But that's the problem. He thought he was working, and New Jack was murdering a motherfucker, or attempted murdering. But that's just what he did. That's just what he did. What are your thoughts on this? Have you met New Jack? I'd never had the pleasure of meeting New Jack. Like I said, I've talked to people who have worked with New Jack, and they said he's just a peach, just a fucking sweet man, easy to work with. And I believe it, too. I believe both can be true. It's what side of New Jack do you end up on? If you're on his bad side, you are fucked. All the way up until the late end of his career when he was, I don't remember the name of the old guy. But there was an old guy who had, you remember that from the dark side of the ring. He had had been around the business for a long time. He was not a greenhorn by any extent, but fucking rubbed New Jack the wrong way, and here we go. So I think it was because he didn't want to sell for New Jack, right? He was trying to be a tough guy in the ring. So Jack's like, all right, we'll see how tough guy. I mean, it's funny, and it makes for great wrestling stories and tales. To this day, the legend of New Jack will long outlive. Obviously, he's dead and gone. Nobody's forgetting about New Jack anytime soon. We'll have this conversation 10 years from now, 20 years from now. People will be like, hey, remember when New Jack did that thing? So, I don't know, man. It's one of those things in the wrestling business, but God, he's if there's one guy, if they're like, who's the last person in the entire wrestling business, I would go in the ring with Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody in a fucking triple threat match in a steel cage before I would have a match with New Jack. Maybe not. I don't know. I'll just bring my own shank and we'll fucking knife each other. Break out and do a knife fight. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'd really love to hear about it. What are your thoughts on this? Mass Transit deserve it because he's a fat mark? New Jack, a piece of shit because he's trying to kill people and take advantage of them? See, that's the thing. In wrestling, you give people your bodies. You trust them. And people don't give you their bodies and trust you so that you can take advantage of them because you don't like them. There is making an example out of somebody, like say the Dudley Boys did with Public Enemy when they came into the WWF for a cup of coffee there. They got their asses beat, right? Or was it no, it wasn't Dudley Boys, it was the APA. Regardless, that kind of shit, fine. Knifing somebody's forehead open and cutting through the fucking arteries? But I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes. And I'm going to go cry in the corner. Ooh, Yeah, thanks for checking out the video. You can check out more great clips by hitting that subscribe button below. Yeah. While you're there, don't forget to leave a comment. Don't forget to like it if you liked it. Ooh, yeah. Did it?